going to give you true prices, but I know a few people in this room are not going to give true prices. How can we minimize and eliminate that? The strategy we came up with is we use, I kind of like this analogy. We're asking the MFIs to be transparent on their pricing, but we warn them very clearly, everything you give us is transparent. Everything you give us will end up on the website. We don't just ask you, in Grameen's case, for example, we don't just say, oh, you charge 20%. In Grameen's case, we got dozens of repayment schedules, real repayment schedules out of women's pockets and made scanned pictures of them. Okay? We do that with every institution. We get real loan repayment schedules from real clients, and we use that to calculate the same formula. It's actually exactly the same formula used in the United States. When you go and get a loan, the bank must apply the standard formula and tell you the APR. So we calculate the APR off real loans going to real clients, and we get real repayment schedules, and then we post not only the results on our website, we put up the actual repayment schedules themselves. Why? Because some institution might fabricate repayment schedules.
I was just going to say, can you select the timing of the loan payments to say, like, I want to see January's, June's, April's, and whatever? And how do you know that they're not forging it?
Right. Well, one, we do first look at what their product is, and then we say we want these specific samples. All the loans have to have gone out in the last 2 months, so we're getting current prices, not last year's prices. And we look for a range of different criteria. So we say, give us some samples from those. They could, in theory, some institution out there might be tempted to fabricate, I'll just make up a repayment schedule from last month, okay? Now, what we do, we clearly tell them this. Be careful. Any mistakes or lies, if you give us a false repayment schedule, let me walk you through the steps. We're going to calculate a low price, and we're going to put up the low price. We're also going to put up that repayment schedule on our website. And anyone in the world, including your staff, okay, your competitors, investigative journalists, and the government are going to be looking at your price, and they're going to be drilling down and looking at the repayment schedules that you submitted. Your staff and your competitors, for example, are going to say, gee, I know that price is lower than what they really charge. Drill down, look at the repayment schedule, compare it, then go out and visit any one of your thousands of clients and see a different repayment schedule, and then you're caught. Okay, yeah. So what we say is that any false information might get through and we have some decent internal screens, but if it gets through our screens and onto the website, it won't stay there for long before, again, because of transparency and sort of communal vigilance,
right.
That somebody's gonna challenge you, and this actually does happen. We get contacted by institutions or by people, and they say so and so's price is not right, and then we contact so and so, and when we dig into it. So again, we say that this is how we don't do it because we distrust anybody necessarily. We do it because it helps build a higher level of confidence and trust in the data that you see. Because otherwise, if you don't know, if we didn't practice such excessive, might argue, or detailed authentication procedures, you might suspect that some or most are lying. Now, we can, with confidence, say that if anyone's lying, they won't be lying for long because we'll catch them. Okay, yeah, and that creates a better sense of accurate confidence in the data that you're seeing.
I'm very excited about what you do, what you're doing, what you have been doing, and I so appreciate you bringing us on the inside of this, because there's been a whole inner world to microfinance that those on the outside we haven't had access to, besides the contextual understanding and the conceptual understanding that Dr. Yunus has explained and the model. But it's all about what happens on the inside and the dynamics and verifying the details and what protocols are different and what are the processes that are used.
Right.
And this really makes me feel a lot better about it. And the fact that you have the organization that you do, it just gives me peace that the attention to details and the arrangements and the way people are practicing microfinance, they have a stellar level to rise to.
Yeah. Well, I think these are very good closing comments. 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I was at something of a crisis. A lot of us were. We had spent decades helping to build a noble, double bottom line social business global industry to help the poor. We had now the precarious, the dangerous, moving toward the sustainable, profitable business for the poor. How far do you move toward profit before you become before it's usury, positive impact? And now here's the key. I think I argue this is the key. We got so successful that we started drawing in an entirely new cadre of actors. Okay, and they're not breaking any laws. They're actually doing perfect textbook business practice, which is maximize your profit. Okay, all this balance and being concerned for the poor. There's not too many businesses that have that prominent or anywhere in their materials. It's about selling product and setting the highest price you can, keeping your costs as low as possible, charging a high price you can, maximizing profit. And that's what we see of a small but growing movement in microfinance. So now, what do we do? Do we say, well, we give up? We got sort of taken over by commercial mindsets? Or while we are still the majority, and we are, can we use majority power to encourage and obligate those with purely commercial interests to back things off a little bit, okay? Or at a minimum, there are many efforts underway on this right now, of which we're involved in a number of them, is to certify those that are double bottom line versus those that are just coming to microfinance because it's a new market and you can make a good tidy profit. So that's where we're at, and MF Transparency is just one of a number of initiatives that are making really solid and important progress on that. And again, we can do it because those of us, the graying ones among us, like the Yunuses, that have been here when the original vision and values were different, can work to establish, to not have that foundation of values and vision erode as the new entrants come in.
You're so articulate. It's such a pleasure to talk with you today. And is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
I'm just really inspired by the level of interest that people have in getting beyond sound bites, and to spend an hour trying to learn more about something that they would find it important enough, and that they would be curious enough to want to understand it more. We're, I think, turning into a world that's been dominated by sound bites, and we're suffering the consequences. Not just microfinance at all. The whole of civilization
yes,
is being eroded by soundbite simplicity, and things are always, everything, including microfinance, including pricing, everything is much more complicated and deserves and needs more in-depth attention that the kind of vehicles that like your show give us access to. So I really appreciate you contacting us, and the questions you asked were you really were able to drill right to the key points. So I appreciate it.